Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. Today we're going to take a look at a Wilson Combat Les George collaboration called the Eagle. I've never had the opportunity to bring any of the Wilson Combat folders or fixed blades out here to my channel, so I'm really happy to get a chance to do so. I've been a big Wilson Combat fan for pretty much my entire adult life, and I think it's really interesting the choices that they've made with their collaborations. Now, you can get full custom knives in collaborations. They usually make about 10 of them. They go very, very, very quickly, and they're usually worth a crap ton of money. Then you get into these guys here, production level knives. And that's something that Les George has actually been able to really translate very, very well from his customs to these productions. I mean, this is a really, really good knife. I'm not crazy about the finishing on it, but that has no bearing on the quality of the knife. And factor in that this is meant to be more of a user knife. The finish is actually perfect for exactly what it is. So let's start off with some specs, shall we? You're looking at $525 directly from Wilson Combat's site. You're looking at CTS XHP steel with a Rockwell hardness of 60, pretty damn good. Blade length is 3.6 inches, in my wheelhouse, perfect EDC size. And you've got an overall length of 8.5 inches. It's a good carry size. One of the things that's interesting is how slim it is. This looks like it should be a really big knife. However, it's a really, really slim knife and easy to carry, very easy to wield as well. Now, Les, being extensively trained in close quarters combat, is always going to bring kind of a no-nonsense approach to his designs. Typically, they're going to be flat, they're going to be slim, easy to carry, and they're going to be big, powerful, bold blades, and they're going to deploy very, very quickly. Whether it's a thumb disc, thumb stud, or flipper, he's always had really great actions. And if you go way back on my channel, about 3 years ago, I've actually owned a couple of his rock eyes. I didn't review the second one that I owned because I bought it from a dealer and it had some rust in the Damascus, so I ended up sending it back. But the original rock eye that I had, I really wish I still had it. It was a fucking fantastic knife. Now, when we talk about the overall quality of this knife, I'm just going to talk about a couple things that's lacking. Number one, it does not, and I'm just double checking to make sure I'm not wrong, no, does not have a steel lock bar insert. At $525, I would absolutely expect to see a steel lock bar insert. And that's going to give you two nice options. Number one, you're not going to feel any stick, especially when the knife is brand new. And number two, titanium being softer than the stainless steel it's butting up against is going to wear over time. How much time? That's entirely up to you. How much use you're putting it under, how many times you're flipping it, what kind of force you're putting it under. And a lot of guys have no issues whatsoever. When you pick up a Chris Reeve, you pick up a Sebenza, you know, how often do you hear of somebody having lock failure? It doesn't happen often, but it happens enough that it's become something that people expect at this point. So at this price range, I'd like to see that. Is it necessary? Not entirely. The other thing is there is no lock bar over travel prevention. So if you're a really strong dude, you could literally bend that titanium lock bar over. That's going to do a couple of things. It could be a danger as far as, you know, actually not engaging enough when it is locked. And then it's also pulling the detent away so your knife could shake loose. Obviously the detent on this is perfect as it ships, and you have obviously no reason to worry there. But we like to have an over travel on a titanium frame lock whenever possible. The only other thing that I would change is I would like to see a little bit more relief here so that your thumb can more easily access that lock. Now, I don't have big giant fat thumbs or anything, so I'm able to get into where he's recessed here and access it, but it would be nice if this slab were a little bit narrower than that slab, just so we could get into it. Right now it's completely flat, so your thumb could actually just glide right across it, as I'm demonstrating for you right there. It is nice to see, however, that he's taken all the sharp edges off. There's nothing that's going to start biting you. Great job on that. Everything is nicely rounded and contoured on the edges. Even though this is a slab-sided knife, it is not contoured, but he has the contouring here on the very edges, and that actually makes this for something that's comfortable for hard use and no detectable hot spots. The clip, while not being showy or fancy, is certainly utilitarian. It works great. The duckbill is a little bit tall, but it's going to drop into your pocket super fast, super easy. It's got great retention. This is the kind of knife that, listen, we have to break this up because at some point, my video here is going to be found by people more so that are Googling this knife. They're going to see it on Wilson's webpage. They're going to be curious about it. They're going to Google it. They're going to come across my video. That's going to be gun guys. Gun guys traditionally are not knife guys, which would explain why gun guys still for some reason buy quartermaster knives. That's a whole nother video. So their needs are generally going to be a little bit more basic, or I should say they're not looking for things as detailed as a knife collector is. I pointed out a couple of things that really wouldn't affect the normal, average, everyday knife consumer. So you have to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I'm picky because I'm a high-end knife collector. And I look for very specific things because I know the market, I know what people are charging, and what you're generally going to get optioned onto your knife for those prices. Here, you're getting a solid value, solid, good working knife. It's going to do everything that you want it to do as a utilitarian knife, period. And that's exactly what it was made to be. This is not a prettied up knife. It is not a fancy showcase knife. It does have the beautiful starburst pattern that is synonymous with Wilson Combat. So that's about the only beautification you really get. Everything is stonewashed. The blade is entirely stonewashed. The frames are entirely stonewashed. So it's not meant to be fancy and pretty. It's just meant to be tossed around, thrown around, and used as a hard use knife. And for that purpose, it absolutely lives up to it. He's using a premium carpenter steel. I love CTS as XHP. It's a fantastic steel. And even when you start getting into more exotic knives, some of the best knife makers out there are using XHP. When you look at guys like Chad Nichols making his Damascus, excuse me, I should say his San Mai, one of the core steels that he relies on in his San Mai is XHP, because it is going to hold an edge for a good long time. It is going to be a good anti-corrosive steel. This is something that is truly made to be used. So he purposefully picked a great steel for an EDC knife. Size-wise, it is the perfect EDC knife. You've got a big full-size knife here when it's open, but when it's closed up, it's slim. It's easy to carry. It's unobtrusive. Again, for that non-knife guy that's carrying a knife, they don't want to have something that's calling attention to itself. They don't want to, think about it and, oh, I've got this big-ass knife in my pocket. They want it to disappear until they need to reach for it. Period. It's not a showpiece for them. They're not pulling it out and showing it to all their friends every time they meet up with them. Knife guys, that's what we do. We get together with our knife buddies, we see what each person is carrying that day, and we'll bring a Pelican case with 50 friggin' knives in it. But for the average everyday consumer, and again, for that gun guy or that survivalist or that outdoorsman that just wants to have something that's good, solid, and is also fairly attractive, this knife fires on all cylinders. This is exactly what you need. The great thing is, knowing the quality of work that Les George does, you've got a knife that can legitimately last you the rest of your life. You've got ergonomics that, while it looks basic, just quickly looking at it, it looks basic. However, you've got a nice deep recessed choil here. It flares outward to fill up the largest portion of your hand, tapers off, and gives you a little bit of a fighter style tail here. What that does is it keeps the knife hooked into your hand. It allows you to grip it in a more natural grip for any number of grips that you want to use. This is going to be perfect. You're cutting something, you're cutting some rope. Everything about this is meant to be used. That's what's so great about it. It looks simple, but it's the things that look simple that tend to be the most complex. When you're sitting down to design a knife, and you've got to try and figure out how to make it fit in a wide variety of hands, different sizes, and then in a number of different handholds that you believe the typical knife user is going to employ, and then make it look nice on top of all that. He's actually done a fantastic job here. You'll even notice here there's a little peak in the middle of that handle so that it drops off naturally here to the thumb ramp that has the jimping. This is not an afterthought. They could have just been a straight back spine and then a straight spine to the blade. Instead, it's made to fit perfectly in that little spot right in your hand. Your thumb naturally drops in place on the inclined thumb ramp with the jimping. So again, everything with a purpose. That's what Les George is all about. And really, when you look through the catalog of knives that have been made for Wilson Combat, they have never chosen anything that was impractical. Okay, I don't want to say that. There are some that have been a little bit way out in the collector series, but still you could very, very easily use them as an EDC knife. They're very cautiously aligning themselves with some of the best knife makers in the entire world, and they're very careful to pick the models that will work in the field every single day for any type of use for the widest amount of people, the widest array of people that they have for customers. This is the perfect complement to their pistols because that's how they design their pistols. They're made to be used first and foremost. They have to be reliable. They have to function to a certain degree for certain tasks. And then beyond that, you worry about the pretty shit. Okay? And that's the philosophy being used as far as I see it across their entire product line. So like I said, I'm not unbiased on that. I've been a Wilson fan for pretty much my entire adult life. I think they make phenomenal products, and when they choose to not make a product but to align themselves with somebody else who does, they tend to find the best of the best. And I think for $525, you could certainly do a hell of a lot worse. So with that, we're going to close this back up, exit the video. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you on the next video.